Hello, my YouTube family. Hope everything's okay. This is the Florida Uber Eats driver talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly. I have this customer. What's your name, sir?
Lance?
Lance. Is it okay for me to interview you?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Mr. Lance did something that a lot of passengers should do. I picked up this fare, I accepted it, and it was going to be $12 for me. So it was okay. And he had, by mistake, punched in a different address. So I always like to tell my customers where we're heading. Are we going to so and so? Just to confirm, because it does happen. You'll get to know that. Just don't go blindly. And he says, oh, no, we're going to this address. I says, well, that's not what it says. So he adjusted the fare and it became $6. Okay, so my man over here, Lance, knew that I was going to make less, and he took out an extra $10 and he gave me as a tip. Now, that's some type of passenger. Kudos to Lance. And I hope that other passengers see that. See this video. Mr. Lance, we're going to talk about politics. Okay? What do you think? Do you vote?
Not often, no, but if I feel as engaged, I will.
Okay, so you haven't voted for the governor.
No, I have not.
I see. How about before? Have you voted?
Yes.
Who you voted for?
Trump this last time.
Okay, so you did vote for Trump.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent.
Mostly because it was against Biden, but yeah.
Right. So, what do you do for a living?
I mostly do punch out for FSM, and I do local construction work, and then as a side job, I do blinds and shutters, plantation shutters.
Punch out, they call it here in the South, but up north we say punch list.
Yeah, same thing.
You do the punch list, so you go into the contractor's final details and you fix it up, the mistakes and stuff like that, right?
Exactly.
Excellent. So that was pretty cool of you, dishing out an extra $10 as a tip.
Yeah. I think that it's important to appreciate that somebody's taking time out of their day to provide the service. And I appreciate you. I didn't want you to think anything less of me for making the mistake, so I wanted to make it right.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah. We did have a strike the 23rd of November all the way to the 26th of November. So I don't know how you think about that. What do you think about that? Did you encounter any problems during those days?
No, not that I can recall. I wasn't impacted, but I'm also not aware of this situation either, so I don't really have very many thoughts on it, besides surprise at you telling me.
Yeah, what happened is they're taking more than half of the fare of a driver. Mm-hmm. And it shouldn't be that way. They started a long time ago paying us like 80%, down to 75%, down to 50%, and now there's some fares they're even making more than we are.
Yeah.
So what do you think about unions? You think the drivers should have a union?
So I'm not entirely against unions, right? I think that they're good for what they are, but I also think that I want to be a realist in the fact that Uber has been so successful because it's not a union, right? And I think that a free market is an important thing to try and hold on to. At the same time,
Right.
like that's where the $10 came from. Is that the fare on my end was 23, and then it dropped all the way down to, I think it was 12 and change right now.
Right.
So it was like make up the difference that way.
You see, you said it right. If it was 22,
Mhm.
22, I was getting 12 and something, almost 13.
Exactly. So like,
So then you saw that it dropped half. So if it's 12, I'm getting 6 something now.
exactly.
So they're making like more than half.
Yeah.
You understand?
Off
And
of just
that's not
providing.
right. And the reason why I'm talking about having a drivers union is because every strong company, whether it's in the car industry or even the federal government
Mhm.
or any type of business in the construction business, they all have unions. And guess what? There's a lot more respect because they see that there's a union. You said it right. Uber is so successful and Lyft, it's because they're not union, but they're taking advantage.
I agree.
And when you have a strong union, look what's happening now with the Biden and the railroad. All these people were asking for is a pay raise, and also they want to be able to have sick days to get paid
Yeah.
for their sick days. That's not too much to ask.
So I think that asking for a union is different than asking for sick days, right? Like, and then also, I'm not so sure that every powerful company has a union. I mean, Walmart is the biggest example, and I don't want to use Walmart as like a perfect idea of what a company should be, right, for its employees, but at the same time, they're extremely powerful, if not the most powerful company on the planet, and
Yes,
no
and this is
union.
this is where corporate greed comes into power because what you're saying is true.
Mhm.
Big companies that are successful, okay,
Mhm.
are non-union. But guess what? They abuse their worker. There's no balance. Now it becomes corporate greed in America when you don't have the balance of power.
I think it's always been corporate greed, right?
Well, no, now there's more and more corporate greed.
I
So
think the
we
difference is that
we
it's
need
become a
we need
stronger corporate greed.
I know.
Right? It's a larger corporation, but it started with that initial greed. You started with a smaller board and a smaller CEO, maybe like finances. But
Right.
I think that's always been the perspective, is that the people want to make more money. And I think that if your economy is rewarding you in such a way that you're making money, then that should be a good enough indicator that you're doing things right.
Yes, but let me ask you a question. For a company that is doing so well,
Mhm.
right? How come they're laying off all their cashiers and putting up all these self-checkout places? Now, let me explain something to you. That's part of corporate greed. When you
Absolutely.
do not have a balance of power, you don't have check and balances, that's what happens. You get corporate greed.
Yeah.
In any country, in any business, if you don't have a balance of power, look in Congress. Look our three forms of we have Republican, Democrat, but the balance of power lies on the Senate, the House, the judiciary. Three different types. So there's a balance of power. When you have in place a union, now you have a balance of power. The union does not want the company to go belly up because they love their job.
Yeah.
Ask any contractor That's union. They love their job. They're proud of their job.
But it's also, ask anybody who lives in those areas that has to rely on them for construction. They don't do the best work, and it's impossible to fire these people. So I mean, there's trade-offs in every situation, right? Like Uber, there's a private industry right now, and you're providing a fantastic service, but you put a union into
This
that.
is a misunderstanding that some people like yourself are thinking, that you cannot fire a union worker.
You can, but it's
Oh, wait a minute.
typical.
Well, let's rephrase this. If the person is doing shitty work,
Mhm.
he will get fired, whether he's
Maybe.
union or not. Yes, he would.
Maybe.
I guarantee you,
I think
because
that it's
that's
easier.
what
There's
people
less restrictions on your ability to get rid of an
to
employee if you have a
exactly,
private
because
enterprise.
it should be like that,
And I believe in
because
freedom, so
exactly,
you should
but
have the
it
freedom.
should have a balance of power. The boss cannot just fire somebody just like that as well. So
So
there's
Florida
gotta
specifically hides behind being a right-to-work state, and I
right,
believe that like one of the common things that I kind of say is that like I don't put in 2 weeks because they're not going to give me 2 weeks if they fire me.
right.
I think that's fair, right? I think that's fair whether or not you have a union or whether or not you're working privately.
Yeah, but you see, that's kind of, you lose your responsibility as a human being. If you're working for a company,
Mhm.
you should tell the boss, I'm giving you my 2 weeks notice. That's just great to do that. That's called craftsmanship. That's it's called having respect
But he won't
for
have
the
that same
company.
respect for you, so it's costing you more than you're going to
But
gain.
there you go. That's why they need a balance of power. It cannot be just right to work. It's a right to work state,
Well,
and they can lay you off whenever they want to.
so that's what you're saying is that you want a balance, but then you're saying I want these rules imposed on them that wouldn't be imposed on me. I don't want that. I just want everybody to not have these rules imposed on them. I believe in freedom.
Exactly, you believe in freedom, but you also understand that when there is no balance of power,
Mhm.
that it's the balance, it's tipping on one side. That's not democracy. That's called corporate greed.
What if
Now
you're
they
on that
do
side?
what happened?
What if you're on that side? Like, what if the drivers were making more than Uber was making consistently?
Well, let me ask you a question.
Mhm.
We have all the expenses
Mhm.
that we should be making more than Uber. Uber comes up with the app.
You don't see how it's like beneficial for you to have that argument. You know what I mean? Like Uber could say, well, like we do the most amount of work because or we invested all of this time and research into this, or like I'm sure that there's arguments to be made on both ends. And again, I don't want to make an opinion either way. I'm not informed whatsoever on the issue. And like I don't want to defend Walmart at all. I'm very angry
I
that they
understand.
stopped 24 hours.
But that's why you need a balance of power. Okay? Not all unions are great, but corporate greed in America is becoming more and more rampant. God bless America. Please drive safe. This is the Florida Uber Eats driver with
Lance?
Lance. Anything you want to add, Mr. Lance?
No, that'll be it.
Okay,
Stay
God
safe,
bless
guys.
America.
Yeah.
Have a wonderful day, guys.
God bless America.